The Little Mermaid is out, playing in theaters now. Alright, so when it comes to these Disney live-action remakes, I have a very hit-and-miss relationship with them. And The Little Mermaid is a Disney animated film that I actually really enjoy. So when it comes to this movie, the two best things that this movie nailed were the song recreations and Halle Bailey as Ariel. In fact, surprisingly, the stuff that I was most worried about going into the movie because I thought it looked horrible in the trailers, the under the sea sequences, actually ended up being my favorite parts of the film. They're super colorful, the characters were very lively. It's also where the best of these song recreations take place. You got Under the Sea. You got Poor Unfortunate Soul, sung by McCarthy as Ursula, which I actually thought was one of my favorite song sequences in the movie, which is kind of funny because I usually skip it in the original. And then, of course, you've got Part of Your World with Halle Bailey as Ariel. Now, before we really dive into the performance by Halle Bailey, her voice, man, is just incredible. You've heard snippets of it throughout the trailers, but when you get the full rendition of Part of Your World, by the time that thing finished, I wanted to stand up and clap. I felt like I was at a live show. And Halle Bailey, she completely nails Ariel. She captures Ariel's wonderment and adoration for the land and for the people on the land in a way that both makes you sympathetic towards her, makes her charming, makes her adorable. You just get on board with Halle Bailey as Ariel right away. And just the way that they were able to represent her infatuation with everything to do with land, I just thought was perfect. Speaking of infatuation, the core of The Little Mermaid is essentially a romance movie. Little Mermaid, she wants to get with Prince Eric, you know, the whole thing, kissy kissy, kiss the girl, all that stuff. And in the original animated film, the Prince Eric character, he's not very developed. Their relationship is not very developed. You know, they only had an hour and 20 minutes to tell that story. So now you got the live action Little Mermaid. You got 2 hours and 20 minutes, 2 hours, 15 minutes to tell the same story. Yeah, why not just keep the development the same? For the first 40 minutes of this movie, when we're under the sea, when we're meeting Ariel and Ursula and all the sea creatures, Sebastian, Flounder. Here's the thing, up until this point, I was actually really enjoying myself with The Little Mermaid. I was thinking this is better than I thought it was gonna be. I liked the song sequences, I liked the underwater stuff. But you know, once Ariel, she loses the voice, she goes on land, she has to woo Prince Eric. The problems of this movie began. When you get to the relationship with Ariel and Prince Eric, I felt this movie just kind of came to a halt. They had no chemistry to me. But with the original animated film, with the poppy music, with the colorful landscapes and colorful characters, you can get away with having some underdeveloped elements. You know, the movie's pretty quick, it goes by pretty fast. It's a fairy tale through and through. But when you're bringing that into a almost 2.5 hour long live action movie, you gotta do better than what the animated did. You gotta get us behind this couple. You gotta get us invested in the romance. At the core of this movie, it's a romance. And when you don't care about the romance, the movie just kind of falls apart. And that's what kind of happened to me with this movie. Like many of the Disney live-action remakes before, this movie does a great job of recreating scenes from the animated original and bringing them into live action. So if you're judging it on that merit, yeah, it's done very well. But if you look at this movie, and this is how I felt about halfway through the movie as I was watching it, something in me just kind of changed. Because I was watching it and I was like, if I had never seen the animated original, if this was a brand new movie just from Disney, no IP attached to it, it's just, hey, The Little Mermaid, no one's ever seen this before, it's completely new, the movie's not good. And it really does come down to a couple things. The pacing in this movie, I felt it was way too long. The pacing in this movie was completely off to me. Prince Eric in this movie may get more screen time than he did in the original, but he's not much more interesting than he was in the original. The character was just very flat to me. And when you get Ariel, when you get Halle Bailey together with this guy, I felt Ariel became less interesting as a character. Granted, a lot of that has to do with the fact that she can't speak, and Halle Bailey does a great job of expressing with just her face and doing a lot with her performance without speaking any lines. But I cared about this couple as much as I care about a Hallmark couple. And because of that, a large bulk of this movie, when we get into like the second half, into the third act, became so boring and dry to me. The movie doesn't have much humor in it either, at least not much humor that landed with me, and I didn't hear many people laughing in my theater either. I was desperately trying to grab onto something. I wanted something to keep me invested in this movie, and I just wasn't finding it. Even going back to Melissa McCarthy as Ursula, as the antagonist in this film, I thought she was fine. To me, it definitely kind of felt like Melissa McCarthy was just kind of doing an imitation of the animated character. It didn't really feel like she was making the character that much her own or doing anything new with it. But she was clearly having fun in the role, and I enjoyed seeing her in the role. But the threat of Ursula doesn't really loom over this movie. I didn't feel like Melissa McCarthy made much of an impact as Ursula. When she's off screen, I forget all about her until she pops her way back in. But I wish I just felt that threat of Ursula a little bit more throughout the rest of the movie. Honestly, guys, when it comes to this movie, I think it comes down to how much you love The Little Mermaid, because these Disney live-action remakes, they just are so handcuffed to doing everything that the original does. And yeah, they add in little scenes here and there, and this movie did add a couple of scenes that aren't in the original. But it's just, when you have to play it by the playbook so closely, and you're doing so many of the exact scenes the exact same way, and you're not adding anything to them, the same development is there, or under development, as I should say, then you are definitely gonna have a good time seeing those scenes that you loved in the original recreated in live action for today. But honestly, besides that, I didn't really find much else to latch onto with this movie. Once the underwater sequences, once the first 40 minutes of the movie were done with, I was kind of ready to be done with it too. I've seen a lot of love for this movie. I'm seeing a lot of people raving about it. I wish I could join you, but I guess I'm going to just have to be in the minority with this one. I'm giving The Little Mermaid a weak not recommend. Unless you love The Little Mermaid, unless you have loved these Disney live-action remakes, I just don't think there's much else here to explore or that will entertain you. Anyway, guys, those are just all my thoughts and opinions on The Little Mermaid, but I want to hear from you guys. What did you think of The Little Mermaid? Are you going to scream at me in the comment section? Do you think I'm nuts? Did you absolutely adore it? I want to hear from you guys. Comment down below. Let me know all your thoughts and opinions. If you're new here, we have a goal on the channel. We want to hit 2,500 subscribers before the end of the year. If you like talking movies, you're definitely in the right place. Consider joining our little community. We'd love to talk movies with you by hitting that subscribe button down below. With that, guys, thank you again for watching and hearing me out, and I hope to talk to you guys again real soon.